Good morning. Canadians are used to secret disinformation from the Harper government. This summer, thinking that Canadians were not aware,
already we can see evidence of poor administration.
$4 billion deficit. They've wasted $1.3 billion on the G20 Boondoggle and are spending $16 billion on an untendered jet fighter contract, all without public or parliamentary oversight. Today we're here to talk about the government's ongoing campaign to mislead Canadians about the threat of crime, simply to justify the out-of-control costs of their ideological crime and punishment agenda. The Harper Conservatives continue to keep Canadians in Parliament in the dark more than a month after the Parliamentary Budget Officer revealed that the Truth in Sentencing Act will cost billions more than the Conservatives promised. The new costs will reach $1 billion a year over the next 5 years, plus an estimated $5 to $8 billion in costs to the provinces over 5 years, for a total of $10 to $13 billion. The Conservatives initially claimed to Parliament that the bill would cost a mere $90 million. The government should have been upfront about the cost, not just about this one bill, but about their entire crime and punishment agenda. They need to come clean on the total costs, including to the provinces, and where they propose to get this money from. The remainder of the bill for this government's U.S.-style super prison system will have to be picked up for the provinces and territories. And, as the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report points out, the government has no plans to supply transfer payments to assist the provinces.
These bills for criminal justice will cost a great deal of money. I can't imagine how much it's going to cost, however, the taxpayers for the three bills that are currently on the government's program.
Just as the latest Statistics Canada analysis shows, crime rates are actually falling, despite Conservative efforts to hide the truth. The facts are clear. Crime is going down. The crime rate fell 3% in Canada last year and is down 17% in the past decade. The crime severity index is down 22% since 1999. Violent crime is also down and represents less than 0.25% of all crime. And the homicide rate is 2/3 of its peak in the 1970s. But as we've seen time and time again, like their recent attack on the census, the Conservatives are perfectly content to ignore the facts. Instead, they are motivated entirely by their crime and punishment ideology. Justice Minister Nicholson rejected the new StatsCan figures. Minister Taves maintains that gun, gang, and drug violence is increasing, but can offer no empirical proof. Senator Pierre Hughes, a chief Tory spokesperson on crime, said that someone somewhere is manipulating these figures, that someone behind the curtain is changing them, that StatsCan is giving Canada a false sense of security. And yesterday, Stockwell Day introduced the newest, most ludicrous rationale for their out-of-control crime spending, a supposed increase in unreported crime that surveys show, though he couldn't provide a shred of evidence about these surveys. But now there is such a thing as unreported crime. But is this an absurd reason to spend $10 to $13 billion on Republican-style mega jails? Do they propose to lock up people who aren't being charged, to round up anybody who looks suspicious? The best way to combat crime, both reported and unreported, is to work with police to prevent it from occurring in the first place, through proven techniques that are known to work. Yesterday, Stockwell Day went to great lengths to trumpet his government's record on crime prevention. Yet, his statements are completely at odds with the facts. The Conservatives have slashed crime prevention from $57 million in 2005 to $19.3 million in 2008, a cut of almost 70%. The government likes to say they support victims. Again, how the facts tell a very different story. In 2010, the Conservatives slashed grants for the Victims of Crime Initiative by 43%, and contributions to victims of crime by 34%. And then they got rid of the Victims Ombudsman, who said their plan was unbalanced and wouldn't work. Instead, the Conservatives prefer wild, out-of-control spending to fund their ideological pursuits, even when taxpayers are forced to finance the largest deficits in Canadian history. They spent $1.3 billion on the G8, G20 photo op in June, originally price tagged at $179 million. They've committed to spend $9 billion for sole-source fighter jets without negotiating maintenance, likely to add at least $7 billion to the total, and are scrapping the long-form census with a voluntary questionnaire that will actually cost taxpayers more, 30 million more, and be less effective. Les Canadiens ont le droit de connaître la vérité et de compter sur un gouvernement.
We need an accountable government, but what the current government is providing. I would urge the government to show greater transparency with respect to these initiatives in the criminal justice system, instead of doing us a disservice by providing us with empty words and ideology.
Reverse their 70% cut to crime prevention and their cuts to victims programs. The Conservatives are dumping $5 to $8 billion of costs on provinces and territories for just one bill. Today I'm calling on the Conservatives to sit down with the provinces and territories to address their very legitimate concerns about how these initiatives are going to be funded. Let's also remember there's only one taxpayer. Whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal, the Conservatives must provide a full justification for the combined 10 to 13 billion price tag of building new Republican-style super prisons that are just in one bill. Yesterday, Stockwell Day said that it was justified because of a rise in unreported crime, despite a long decline in the reported crime rate. Today, I'm asking for a full accounting of the information he based his statement on. We deserve the facts. If we're going to be spending tens of billions of dollars potentially in new prisons, we have to know what information he's relying on to make those decisions. Finally, I'm also asking for a full costing of the entire Conservative crime and punishment agenda. In a time of declining crime rates, Canadians deserve to know how much Conservative government's ideological priorities are costing them.